Hello and welcome to a new video. Today's video is going to be very special. I'm going to be sharing with you my life journey of how I got to where I am today. It's going to be a longer video. It's going to be me speaking raw to you in the camera. I do have a few notes, but I'm not going to be editing it or cutting anything out. I want it to be as raw and authentic as possible so you guys can really relate to me and my story. So my name is Blake. As lots of you know, my name is Blake. I was born in the UK. That's where I grew up. I had very loving parents who cared about me. I grew up with an elder sister as well. I had a dog. And I had a nice home. I'm very grateful for the upbringing that I had. I always felt that I had the love. There was never any lack of anything. I always had, resources of food and a roof under a roof and a house to sleep in. I never felt in need of anything. My mom was a very great mother. She really took care of me and my sister with the way she looked after us. I was brought up as a vegetarian. I was not allowed any processed foods or sweets or chocolate or sweets. Like anything bad, I was not allowed it. It didn't exist. I didn't even have a TV growing up until later on. So it was really a great lifestyle. My mum was just a mum at home, cooking everything from scratch. My dad was the one working, providing for the family, working very hard in the IT industry. So really, I had a great upbringing. I went to kindergarten, and then I went to a private school where there was lots of arts and crafts and expression, where I could just truly be myself. Especially at a young age, I had lots of fun, and I discovered and played chess at a young age. I also got into, I used to collect items and sell them online. My dad gave me access to an eBay account, so I just go and collect golf balls from a golf court. I used to live close to a golf shooting range. I'd go pick up all the balls in the forest and I'd sell them on eBay. And then I wouldn't do drop shipping, but I'd buy things and then sell them more expensive. So from a young age, I was already this making money mindset person, which was fun. It really was interesting. I was very competitive and I loved the challenge. I also have great memories of going on holiday with my family. We were very fortunate to be able to go on several holidays to the Caribbean, to different parts of Europe, road trips to France, camping, went to Trinidad and Tobago, we went to Sardinia, went to the US when I was a baby as well, where my grandparents were living. So from a young age, I had quite a lot of travel experiences around the world, which was super beneficial for my life. Yeah, I also played lots of cricket when I was a young boy in my little village where I was living, more like a town, to be honest. But I did feel that we were often changing homes for my dad's work. I was born in South London, but I lived in Sussex. That's where I grew up, which is about an hour away from Sussex. So it wasn't necessarily change, moving too far, but I was moving house quite frequently in different places. So I would say that I did have an effect on me of feeling at home and safe, where is home. And when I was at this private school, I did start to get bullied on quite a bit. There was this guy called Max, and his parents were best friends with our teacher. And our teacher, we kept her through the whole 4 years of school together. So he'd pick on me, but she wouldn't do anything about it because she's best friends with his parents. So that definitely played a negative part of my life. It was I don't know how to really describe it, but I started to get scared and worried of this big guy bullying on me. So he'd laugh at me and say horrible jokes at me and push me around. He didn't really properly beat me up or stuff, but it was just subtle, and it really made me feel like I couldn't do anything about it because the teacher wasn't doing anything about it. So I did lose a lot of comfort and safety in those moments. So then after a while I decided that I wanted to change school. I told my parents, hey, I'm done with this school and this teacher and this bully, I want to go somewhere else. So I was actually excited. I went to public school and I was super excited because that's when I started to play soccer. I started playing football when I was a lot later. So I was playing football and it was great. I had lots of friends there, really just always playing. I really connected with my inner child and I was just playing and had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed my time at that public school. And then from there, I passed all my exams. I was about 10, I think 9, 10. And I went into the next, like, upper school. I don't know what you call it in the US, but like mid school, high school. And this time I had to get the bus to go to school because in a different village. So I had lots of fun there as well. I was playing a lot. Again, just really connected to my child and lots of sports and activities. Had decent grades. I was behaving fairly well. And I remember I used to love reading. I really enjoyed reading, especially out loud. I remember I once watched this TV show in England where it'd be these little kids like spelling the longest words in the dictionary. So I asked my dad for a dictionary for Christmas once, and I'll just read the dictionary. Like, I was quite obsessed. It was quite crazy. I even had a little obsession with numbers and alphabets. So I like made my own alphabet, different orders and different points. And every time I'd read a word, I'm like, this word is worth this many points. Like, I was a bit of a weird kid, but I really enjoyed it. And then from there, this is where things started to get a little bit more complicated. So my mom, she started to file for divorce. She wasn't happy in the marriage anymore. My dad had got redundant. He lost his job. And I don't know, I was still such a young age. I was like 10, so I didn't know everything that was going on. I couldn't process everything, nor was I aware. But my mom, has tried to get divorced, and it was a complicated situation. It was taking a lot longer than my parents would have liked. I don't know all the details exactly, but at the same time as well, my mom, she was starting to see another man. She had a boyfriend, so my parents were still living in the same house, and my mom had a boyfriend, which I didn't really know until one day. I remember my mom came back home once and said that she wanted to talk to me. And until then, my mom told me, parents had told me they're going to get divorced, but I didn't really process it or really understand what was going on, or I didn't really, make a big deal of it. Because I saw my parents still here together at the house, and I was being a child, playing and just living my life. But then one day, my mom came and told me that, I need to speak to you, Blake. And I was like, okay. And then she told me that she was pregnant. And immediately I was like, this is not what Dad, is it? And as soon as she said no, like, I just remember just breaking down and bursting into tears, because that was like, my whole reality just shattered. Like, me being in this family and now my family's getting separated. That was like the moment where I knew it was over. So, very emotional time for me, very challenging. But again, I continued on with my life, and so yeah, obviously my parents had moved out the bedroom, but we were still in the same living in the same house, and the house was for sale. I was still like 10, 11. This was going on for quite a long time. And as my mum got more and more pregnant, her boyfriend was was being in the house a lot more. So I had my father and my mum's boyfriend in the house at the same time, and then he eventually moved in when my mum was very pregnant. So it was very confusing for me as a boy at that age to have, my father and this other male in the house, which was very confusing. And this other man, I did not really like him or respect him. It was very challenging, to say the least. But then from there, my younger sister was born, Keisha, who I love. She's my younger sister, and I love her with all my heart, and I could not imagine life without her. So, the divorce was then happening, and one day my dad went out to go on, I can't remember what he was doing. We went out for one evening to do some adventures. My mum was at home. My mum's boyfriend was at home as well. And he came back late. And when he came back, the door was locked because he had gone out, and my mum did not know what was going on. And later I discovered that my mum's boyfriend, he was there when my dad was locked out. And he was laughing at him from the top of the stairs and looking down at him. So I only discovered this out, fairly recently. But for me, that must have been a very humiliating experience for my father to get kicked out of his own home by this man who's just come in and now having a baby with your soon-to-be divorced wife. And then from there, the house gets sold and we move on. I then moved to, we moved to the other side of England, Somerset, Dorset, which is probably like a 2 or 3 hour drive from where I was currently living. England is quite small. But again, it was like new home, new school, new friends. I was there for about a year and a half to 2 years, I think, and that's when I started to, have like behavior issues. I wasn't really a good student anymore. I still work hard, but like there was this rebel inside of me that was deeply hurt. My child was deeply hurt and confused and lost. So then, divorce was still getting very complicated on paper, and the court was getting involved, child services were getting involved. So I was like 11 here, 11, 12, still very confused, not knowing what was going on. So it was pretty rough, to say the least. From there, at the time, my mum was still with her boyfriend, and he had a place in France, a property in France. And my mum, she grew up in Spain for quite a while, and with my sister, my two sisters, and my mother, we had thought of moving to Spain one day. But so yeah, basically, the divorce in court was still getting crazy, and we couldn't go on like this because there's too many things happening. Child services were getting involved, and one day my mum told me like, "Hey, like we're gonna move to France, so go say goodbye to your friends, and we're gonna get in the car and move to France." So I remember saying goodbye to my friends. It was kind of like, had to be discreet about it. And at the same time, it was like, okay, just say goodbye. And then before we know it, the car is packed up full, the house is sold, and we're driving down to France, get the ferry, driving way down to France with my two sisters, the car full. And yeah, we arrive in this little village called Basildon, which is like, it's very close to the Spanish border, but in the center of France, close to Toulouse. And then we stop up there in the middle of the countryside, like a small village of like 100 people, like middle of nowhere, just mountains and fields. And at first I was super bored, what am I doing here? But then I really, got time with myself and discovered myself, went out to play in nature and build. And I had no friends, I didn't speak French, I didn't know anybody in the middle of nowhere. I remember there was this farm at the top of the village, and I would go there and spend time with the people there. It was a Welsh couple, and there was another Irish woman living there, so they spoke English. That's the only people I could really communicate with in France, apart from being at home with my mother, my two sisters, and my mum's boyfriend at the time. And I remember I had so much fun just rolling around the fields, playing with the goats. They had horses, they had cows, they had sheep, they had chickens, they had pigs, they had everything. And that's when I really started to, connect with nature and animals, and I was working. Like I really enjoyed this, the part of. Because until then, everything had been like presented to me on a plate. So I started to learn about gardening as well, how to grow food. I was milking cows. I had lots of fun. I really learned some very important values to my life. And until then, I was also a vegetarian. And then one day I remember they told me like, "Hey, you've been helping us out today. You've been working a lot." One of the animals went to the butcher, the abattoirs where they kill the animal, they slaughter it, and the next day I was in the kitchen and we were like chopping it up and doing all this work on these big animals. I think the sheep, the first animal we were working on. And they're like, "Hey, like you've been helping us a lot. Do you want to come and join us tomorrow for a Sunday roast?" Which is a big tradition in the UK. So I was like, sure. That was the first time I tried meat. Until then, I only had a little bit of fish. I ate fish on special occasions. But yeah, super exciting. Like, okay, I'm going to try this new experience. And then I liked it. So I spent all my time on the farm. And then I think within a couple of months, just being there on the farm, my mum was like, said to me and my sister, "Well, we've been here for a couple of months now. I think it's time you go to school." So that alone was another new experience of going to this private Catholic school in France. New language again, new people, new friends, different culture. It was very challenging at first. And then after a few months, I then went to boarding school so I could really integrate in the language and the culture and not have to go home each day. And obviously I was eating more meat at boarding school. That's when I was like 13, 14. So I was like really going for puberty and growing into a man. So I was doing lots of exercise, lots of sports, but I was also eating a lot and sleeping a lot. Because until then I'd been really struggling with my sleep. I had many fears when I was younger of getting kidnapped and lots of deep ingrained fears in me. It's only really when I arrived in France that I find peace with myself and these fears went away. So that alone was a massive challenge. But I really learned a bit more discipline in the boarding school as well. I really worked hard and really tried my best. Although I was working hard and trying my best, I still had these behavior problems. I was seeking attention. So I'd always get into trouble. I was throwing things around, like, breaking things. I wasn't really getting into fights, but I was just being a rebel in class, and I got in a lot of trouble. I nearly got kicked out of that school. I had like this serious meeting with like all the administrators and the council and all my teachers. My mum was there, and it was pretty. I would say I was very ashamed of it. Made me feel like I'm not good enough. I'm not good this way. There's something wrong about me. I can't even focus at school. But deep down, I was hurt and lost, and this inner child didn't know what to do with his life. And I had no contact with my father. Did not know where my life was going. I was lost. Even though I was playing a lot in nature, I started to play rugby. I had good friends. And deep down, there was a part of me which was very sad. So that was from the age of 13 to about 16. During that moment as well, my mother left her boyfriend. He was not a very pleasant man to be around. Me and my sister, we did not like him. And yeah, he was not the right man to be around. So my mum let go of him. And until then, all I cared about was sports, and I wanted to become a professional football player. But eventually, I realized I wasn't going to make it. I wasn't good enough. I started late, and so I was like, what else am I going to do? Because I hated school. I was always getting in trouble, and I just did not feel like I belonged there. And I always enjoyed cooking at home with my parents. When my parents were together, I was cooking a lot. And I really enjoyed that part of me because it really allowed me just to be creative and be present in that moment. Then I discovered that in France, you can learn to become a chef at a younger age. You can go to cooking school. So I'm very grateful to one of my close friends, a family friend, Daniel, who was really helpful for me and my family in France. And he discovered a different school in France where I could learn to become a chef. It was on the other side of France again, but I signed up and I got invited to join that school because in France, lots of things are done by your grades. You've got to have good grades if you want to go to a good school. So I had decent grades. They weren't the best, but it was enough. So again, this meant packing up, moving house again. So I can have a 3-hour drive to the east coast of France, the southeast coast of France, which is like 1 hour from the Spanish border, like 2.5 hours from Barcelona. So I moved there. This time it's like, oh, this feels nice. It's by the sea, nice weather. And I'd already been to this area a few times on holiday with my family. So I did kind of feel, it felt nice. Like I felt comfortable there. And yeah, so I signed to cooking school. I started going to cooking school at the age of 16. And then there's just something that just clicks. I love it. I'm really enjoying it. I actually care. And I'm getting amazing results. I'm the best in my class in every single subject. Even though it was more specified for cooking, there were still hygiene and science and marketing and service and all the things you need to know as a chef and in a restaurant. But there were still some basic subjects like sports and maths, but it was all designed around cooking. So it really felt aligned, and this is when I was really able to be myself. And the teachers loved me. I had the best grades. I was just flowing. I was working in all these amazing restaurants for these work experiences. I was going to these Michelin restaurants. On my holidays, I'd go work. In the summer, I'd go work in these little restaurants on the beach, close to where I was living. And in the winter, I'd go work in the mountains for the ski season. I'd really just work as hard as I could, and I was growing and learning. And I started to have my own income, working as a chef. And on the holidays, then I bought my own car. I was the first person in my class to get my driving license and my car. I was very proud of that, especially being a foreigner. But by then I spoke fluent French. So I really found something that resonated with me, which I felt like, okay, this is great. I was really able to show my creative side and just be me. And I noticed that, I was starting, because before I was like the bad student, average grades, but always getting into trouble. But now I was like the best student. So deep down, part of me was like, all along I've been crying for attention. Like, look at me, I'm hurt. So I tried being the bad student, that didn't work. So like, okay, now I'm going to be the best student, that didn't work either. I did get into trouble as well. I did have several other incidents where I got expelled from the boarding school. I nearly got expelled from the school as well. I won't go into too much detail, but I was still getting into trouble. But as the first year worked so hard, my teachers had they remembered me as this amazing student, so they were even protecting me and fighting for my case, which was really funny, to be honest. And then from there, I finished my 3 years there. I'm 19 now. Okay, now let's go work in the real world. So I'd done several, work experiences, working in the holidays, doing different experiences. But now I was like, okay, I finished this. Now I'm going to go to work. My teachers were trying to pressure me to do another course at school. I had good grades, and you can come be a manager in a hotel, or like work in these big chains. And I was like, I don't really want to do that, even though on paper it was the right degree to take. And I remember where I lived, there was this 3 Michelin-starred restaurant, which was like 45 minutes away from where I lived. And it just gained its 3rd star like 2 years ago, back then. And I thought, well, I will apply. I have nothing to lose. Let me apply for this to work there as an apprentice. So I applied. I remember writing out the letter by hand back then. And then a few weeks later, I get a call from the director. He's like, yeah, we're interested in you. Would you like to come and have an interview? So I'm like, oh wow, I got an interview at one of the best restaurants in France. Like one of the best restaurants in the world. It was a 3 Michelin-starred restaurant. So I remember going there, and then I'm chatting with the director, and he's telling me our standards are so high, like we can't afford to make any mistakes. If you do make a mistake, you got to let us know as soon as you can. And I started to have all this pressure, like, oh my God, this is serious. And then he said to me, would you like to speak to the head chef, also the owner? I'm like, okay, sure. Then the head chef comes out, like this plump French chef, like very old school with a big beard and very short. And he says to me, like, Blake, what do you want to do? I'm like, I just want to cook and become a chef. He's like, okay, fuck what your teachers are saying. Don't do that. Do this course. It's going to be 3 weeks with me in this restaurant, 1 week at school. And the other course was 2 weeks, 2 weeks. So 2 weeks at the restaurant, 2 weeks at school. He's like, fuck that. You don't need that. You want to become a chef? Do this one. You'll be here for 3 weeks with me. I'll teach you everything you need to know. If you're ready, you have your place here starting next week. So I was like, wow, like one of the best chefs in France has offered me a job at his restaurant. So I can't even remember if I accepted it immediately or if I thought about it. I think I accepted it immediately because I felt very intimidated and like I had this massive FOMO, like I can't miss out on this. So then I accept the position, and I sign up with the school. Basically, I do my inscription with the school to collaborate with this restaurant. I remember when I signed up to the school, this restaurant also had other apprentices who had been to this school. And the girl at the reception was like, why are you doing this? She was trying to make me do the next course as well, which is on paper is a high ranked course, but it's not what I wanted. It's not what this restaurant was offering. And I was like, no, that's not what I want to do. I want to do this. Because the course which I was doing it was the exact same level of the 3-year course I'd just done before. So on paper, it's just like the same, but it's going to be a lot more practical, and it's at this restaurant. And I remember her looking at me like you're an idiot. Why are you doing this? Then she said to me, you're probably not even going to last 3 months at this restaurant. And that gave me like a lot of motivation. Like, I'm going to prove you wrong that I can. And before you know it, I'm working at this restaurant, and it was probably the most challenging 2 years of my life. It was so hard. I was like 19 to 21. It was just grind. Like, it was very old school. The chef was wild. I love him. He's a dear friend of mine, a mentor. He taught me so much. So, but it was such a challenging experience for me. And I'm also very grateful to my chef, because for me, he was kind of like a mentor, like a father role, because I still had not had any contact with my father then, since the age of 10, 11. So he really did put me under his wing, and sometimes he'd beat me down, but then he'd pick me back up and rise me and to the top again. So it was a very challenging experience, but I learned so much, and I'm so grateful for this experience. Also, during my 2 years here, I also had the opportunity to go traveling around Europe with two of my friends, my friends that I met at this restaurant, Quentin, one of my best friends, an amazing chef as well. Because the restaurant closed for a couple of months in the winter, because where it was in France, it was very cold in the winter, so there wasn't much clientele, so we closed down for a couple of months. But I still had school every 3 weeks. So for 3 weeks, we'd go on trains around all of Europe, just traveling Europe. I think we did like 17 countries, or 15 countries in 3 weeks. It was crazy. That's when I really started to get my first taste of like proper adventure traveling, not just going to hotels and resorts on holiday. So that was a big learning lesson for me as well, where I started to really get the travel bug and enrich myself with all these experiences. So I finished my 2 years at this restaurant. I finished my training. I get my certificates. I passed all the exams. And now, like, I felt like I wanted something more, because this restaurant was amazing. It was super hardcore, but it was in the middle of nowhere. I had no social life. All I was doing was working. And I thought, okay, let me go back to London. Let me go to England. I want to go back to my country where I was born and brought up. And I want to work in some restaurants in London. I thought, I've been in this big city, I have more of a social life, people I know, they speak my language, even though I was fluent in French by then. And I just wanted a different experience. So I started applying for a few restaurants in England, and I get an answer back from two Michelin starred restaurant in London, one of the best restaurants in London. So I'm like, okay, they want me to come and do a trial, so I fly out there on a weekend, I think, and I do my trial, and I get offered a job. And so before I know it, I am then packing up, moving to London. And my best friend at the time, Quentin as well, he also got a job in London in another restaurant. So we moved to London together. So again, it's like, I think we went there twice with the airplane, just 2 suitcases and moving to London. And that was it. At first, it was very rough. Airplane going by. The airplane is going. So at first it was very challenging, because at the beginning I was sharing a bed with my best friend at my aunt's place in London. My aunt lived in London at the time, until we found our own place. So you can imagine the hours of working there. 2 Michelin-starred restaurant in London were crazy, plus the travel. It was wild. If I missed the last metro tube home, I would have to get a bus. If I missed the last bus home, I had to get Uber. So I remember that every single month in London, I was broke. I was negative in my bank account. There was only 1 month where my mum sent me some money for my birthday that I had money. Also, a part which I didn't mention is when I started to become a chef in France, I started to smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol, which is a very normal thing to do then in France and being a chef. So I'd already, been smoking cigarettes for a couple of years, and obviously in London I was smoking cigarettes as well. And on my days off, I'd go and party with my friends. I'd go drink alcohol. And I wouldn't say I had an alcohol addiction, but I would just go and distract myself and drown myself in substances. And I tried my first drugs, my hardcore drugs, and I went to these nightclubs. I had some crazy euphoric moments, but also I was running away from myself. I was deeply hurt, and it was probably the darkest moments of my life. I tried literally every single drug that exists, not all of them, but a lot of them. I was broke financially, emotionally. I had no girlfriends. My sexual life was literally non-existent. If I did find someone that I loved or I was attracted to, I'd get myself heartbroken very quickly or rejected. The only times I really had any sexual interactions was when I went and visited escorts, prostitutes, which I had a lot of shame in that. I didn't speak about it for many, many years because I felt there's something wrong with me. Why am I feeling this way? But, today I'm very comfortable to share this with you. This is where I was. This is where I was stuck in my life. And, I had very little self-love for myself, self-worth. I did not really believe in myself too much. The only thing that was going well was my professional career. I was going up the ladder. I was getting promoted, working in these nice restaurants. That was it. It's all I had going for me. My health was deteriorating because I was just smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol and trying drugs, and I had still all these wounds inside of me that needed to be like healed. And from there, I think it was about after a year and a half. Well, actually, I missed a very important part. Um, every single morning at that restaurant, the delivery man, he would come along with provisions, and I remember just looking at him and being so jealous of him, envying his freedom. Like, he's going to drop off the provisions, then he's going to go drive around London to his other places, but then, in a few hours, he's going to be done. And I was going to be stuck in this restaurant, sweating my balls off, getting shouted at until 1 o'clock in the morning, and it just felt so bad. And there were moments where it became so bad that I became suicidal on my rare days off. But also on occasional rare days off, me and my best friend would work at private events. We'd be cooking at rich people's homes just to make more money, and really, I did have this massive passion for cooking there, this really creative side, and I really loved it. I wanted to become the best. That's a way I thought I was going to receive love. If I become the best at something, I will finally be loved by others and by myself. So, yeah, on often rare days off, I'd go and explore the business district of London, where we have all these big buildings, either business buildings or bar, restaurant, hotels. And I remember I'd go to the top of them, where I was allowed to. And I remember I'd just lean over the edge of the building, thinking like, should I just take this leap of faith and put an end to all my problems and my grief and my trauma and everything that's going on with me? And I did that multiple times, but I never had the courage to jump. And I remember there was one time when I looked down and I felt all this shame in me. I'm like, what is wrong with me? How have I gotten to this point in my life? And I felt the shame of like, people have it way worse than me. There are people who are at war. There are people who are starving. There are people who are homeless. There are people who are getting murdered. And I'm here bitching and complaining about my life because I work too many hours and I'm broke. So I had all this shame come up in me, and back then it was, what's wrong with me? But now, that moment in my life, I no longer judge that part of me. In fact, I celebrate that moment, because that was the turning point in my life where I knew I had to make a change. And I did. So I cherish every single moment, every single part of me in that moment to allow me to have this awakening. And it got so bad that I had to jump and make a change. So I remember back then there was this restaurant in Switzerland, this 3 Michelin starred restaurant, which I'd been looking at for quite a while. It had been winning many awards. It had been in all the top magazines, all the TVs, getting all these awards. And I remember I applied to work at that restaurant before I moved to London, but I got rejected. They said to me, like, their team is full, there's no space available. And so I thought to myself, well, what if I apply again? Like, I have nothing to lose here. Like, I was literally suicidal. I just wanted to get out of this place, London. Even though I'd started to amend my relationship with my father, and I saw my father for the first time after 18 years. That's another long story, but I still felt, there's something wrong with me. I want to get out of here. So I thought, I'll apply to this restaurant just in case. I have nothing to lose. So I remember again writing this letter, sending it off. And then a few days later, weeks later, they tell me, hey, we'd love for you to come and do a trial. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it just been ranked the best restaurant in the world. In, cooking restaurants, there are multiple different guides. Michelin guide, there's San Pellegrino, but this one was called La Liste, which is a very, very prestigious guide. And it being ranked number 1. So I'm like, fuck, I'm going to go work in the best restaurant in the world. So I somehow managed to scrape some days off to go there. I can't remember how I did it. I go to Switzerland, I do the trial, and I get offered the job. And actually, I missed a very important part. It gets even more crazy. So I get emailed, we'd like you to come and do a trial. And I'm like, amazing, let's do it. And then a few days later, one of my friends sends me on Instagram or Facebook an article that the head chef of this restaurant, he had just committed suicide. He had just killed himself. He had shot himself. So I'm like, what? Like, the head chef, the best, like, he just won the best award in the world, the best chef in the world, best restaurant in the world, and he just kills himself? So that just put a whole new spin on the situation. I'm like, okay, well, this is not going to go down anymore. It's not going to work. But the restaurant continues. The other chef there takes over. Tragic story. So then I still go do my trial. And I remember I got there like, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks, 2 weeks after that, the chef had just committed suicide. So it was a very strange energy to be in that situation. But this was the beginning of the turning point in my life. So I started to, take care of myself. I would eat cleaner. I stopped cigarettes. I stopped drinking coffee. I stopped alcohol. I think I went 6 months without any alcohol. We only had a glass of champagne to celebrate when we kept the 3rd star. I started going to the gym. So I had all these things that were finally working for me. Like, I was taking care of myself. I was meditating. But there was still one big part of me that was missing, and that was my social and sexual life. And until then, relationships that had been pretty much inexistent for me. I'd only had a few small girlfriends in France. But I was only girls that wanted to be with me. I did not have the courage to speak to anybody. I was fearful of rejection. I did not have self-love for myself or self-worth. So I'd only ever be with women who would want to be with me, so I'd just settle for it. I preferred to be with someone that I did not like, rather than being alone. That's how bad it was. So I only had like these 2 or 3 like very poor relationship experiences from France. And even, London as well, inexistent. Or maybe I had this one girl which I had a crush on, but she ended up breaking my heart. So, another story. And so then I realized, I want to change this. If I'm changing my body and working on myself, and changing my career, like I'm meditating now, I want to change my sexual life as well. So that's when I started to, I went to YouTube or Google how to talk to girls, how to get more confident. And this then went down to a whole new rabbit hole of me just watching every single video and buying these courses and then taking massive action. And so I kind of joined this pickup community, which, in hindsight, pickup is not at all something which I advocate for or think's good. However, it did really help me and push me to get out of my comfort zone and get into action, just put myself out there. So I remember joining this men's local Facebook group of people in this area who want to work on themselves as well and do pickup. But it wasn't just about pickup, it was also about fitness and motivation and business. But the main part was how to get girls, how to attract women. So I remember the first time I met this guy online. We went to Lausanne together to go speak to girls on the street. It was crazy. I actually have an even more funny story than that. So when I finally decided to take action, I watched all these videos. I didn't know anyone yet. I was like, okay, I'm going to go do it myself. So I remember walking around Geneva in Switzerland, for 3 hours by myself until I had the courage to go and speak to a woman. And it was pathetic. I just went up to her behind her and went, hi, I wanted to say hi. That was it. She just looked at me like a weirdo and walked away. Because it was so funny how it took me such a long time to then do this pathetic approach. But there was some part of me which felt super proud that I put myself out there, that I'm taking action. Anyways, this leads to then me taking massive action, learning a lot, and then getting massive results. I learned so much. I started to attract lots of women into my life through meeting them on the street or in nightclubs. I never really liked nightclubs at all, but during the day on my days off, I'd go speak to them on the street and try to seduce them, and I'd learn all these lines. And even though it was very cheesy and let's say creepy and unauthentic sometimes, it just really put me into the boiling water just to dive into this and discover this part of you and just figure it out and take an action. And then that's also when I discovered online dating. So at first, I was terrible. I had shit photos, shit profile, didn't know what to say, couldn't have a conversation. And then I watched a few videos. I may have bought a few cheap courses, whatever. And then bit by bit I'd get better, and I get some matches, and I have a conversation, and I really understood and really learned about the male to female dynamics, female psychology, what a female actually wants, what kind of pictures to use. So there was a lot of external stuff, but also internal. But again, I was still this hurt person. So then I was like seeking validation through relationships and women. Like if I can attract a beautiful woman in my life, then I'm going to feel good about myself and people are going to like me. And I'm going to like myself. So I then I then went on to having like many crazy adventures, lots of dates, lots of sex. I even met my ex-girlfriend from the street, which was a beautiful relationship, and it felt amazing for her to see me for who I was, and I could be authentic and vulnerable and share like these dark moments of my past, and for her to not judge me. Even though in the end she ended up breaking my heart. Another story. But it just felt so empowering to be me and to not hide who I was. And so I had all these wild experiences, and I started to like get a big status in our community of the men. People were like, oh, Blake, he's amazing, he's doing all this, he's taking massive action, which I was, but I was also seeking validation from these men and also from women and myself. And so I was at this restaurant for like 1.5 to 2 years. It was amazing, lots of fun, grew a lot. I was like, I want more, there's more to life than this. I remember my other best friend from France was working in Switzerland as well at that time. So we decided to meet up one weekend and went partying together. And we're outside, he's smoking a cigarette. I think I might have smoked a cigarette with him. I smoked a bit. I wasn't fully smoking, but I was smoking a bit on the weekends, maybe. I think we were smoking a cigarette together outside at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I said to him, let's go traveling. Let's fucking go. And I'd been watching all these YouTube influencers traveling the world, making these YouTube videos of travel and food and cooking. I'm like, I want to do that. So we both decided to do that. We quit everything. We buy a bunch of cameras. We quit our jobs. We sell everything. Then we take a one-way ticket to Brazil and go on this 6-month adventure exploring South America together. So from there, me and my best friend Sebastian, we head over to South America to go backpacking for 6 months. And it was wild and crazy. It was so liberating and just so beautiful to see these new countries, this new culture, and it was just self-expression. And it's like, this is life. There's more to life than being locked in a kitchen all your day, all your life. And I had so many wild adventures. Went to Brazil, Peru, went to Patagonia, went to Argentina and Chile, Brazil, Bolivia, Ecuador, Colombia. Went everywhere, even Uruguay. For 6 months. We're just backpacking, doing everything by bus. Literally, we're on the bus for every trip was minimum 18 hours. But it felt so amazing, and especially meeting all these beautiful Latina women, these Brazilian women, these Colombian women, all the Latinas are so beautiful. It's like, wow, women are like this as well. They're so feminine and passionate and sexy and so nurturing. They care about you and they want to look after you, and it's like, wow, I like this. This is amazing. And obviously, I was spending lots of my time with women. I was becoming addicted, not going to lie. I was still seeking validation, which deep down, I believe it goes back to my father wound. I felt that my father abandoned me as a boy. So I was trying to prove to my dad and to myself that, look, I'm a man. I can attract any woman to my life. I can do this. Look at me, Dad. I have sex with all these women around the world. Look at me, come love me. So as amazing as it was, I was obviously still hurt and crying for help. Anyways, we were making all these videos. We had a YouTube channel going. It was slowly building up, but it didn't quite reach the expectations that me and my friend had. Anyways, 6 months go by. We spend all our money. Okay. Back to Europe, back to reality. But I'd made this promise to myself that I'm not going back to work in a restaurant. So then I come back to Europe, and I'm like, what am I going to do with my life? I don't want to go back to work in a restaurant or whatever. And I had all these experiences with all these women in South America, and I was still heavily connected in the dating industry. And one of my friends, who's also a coach, mentor, he says to me, why don't you write a book about all your adventures around South America with these women, and give men tips and guidance on how to date Latina women. So oh, that's pretty cool. All I wanted to do then was just travel and have fun. That's all I cared about. Travel, have fun, seeking validation. So I started that, and like I think within the first few hours of writing, I'm like, I can't do this. This is not right. This is wrong. I felt something in my body which was like, what are you doing? This is not you. Like it was just draining my soul, and it really made me realize that I been starting to objectify women and see them as objects, which was the opposite of what I wanted from when I started this. I just wanted to feel loved and to be with one woman. And I'd slept with all these women just to try and feel good about myself and to heal and to seek validation. But in fact, I've only taken myself further away from the wounds I've had inside of me, and now it's making me feel horrible, even more horrible. Like I'm doing this to women, like just like manipulators, a narcissist. Like, what's wrong with me? So I scrapped that idea very quickly. I was like, not doing that at all. And I even went to a few other dating relationship events. I did some public speaking in Poland, and it just I was also seeking validation from other men. Like, look at me, I'm a man. So it was just so draining, and it felt so unauthentic and so, I don't know, it just did not resonate or land with me. So that's when I scrapped that idea. I'm like, okay, this is not for me. And so then I'm like, okay, let's go look for a job. I applied to some of the agencies as a chef, but I'm like, I'm not going to work in a restaurant. And then I get an offer to work in a private villa on the south coast of France. And I'm like, I see the salary and the location. I'm like, okay, that's a decent salary, but like, how much is rent going to cost there? I was like in Antibes, Cannes, Nice, like Monaco area, like the most expensive part of France. Unless you're talking about Paris, maybe comes close. But the agency then tells me, oh no, they can host you. So I'm like, okay, whatever. They apply, and then a few days later, one of the head chef there, he calls me like, I'm looking for a sous chef to be my assistant here, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, you want to come do a trial? I'm like, sure. Then he tells me the name of the it's like a castle. It's like private domain in the middle of sort of, I can't say exactly where it was, but on that area of Provençal, France. And then I look it up on Google, and then I see that the owner of it is this massive Russian billionaire, this Russian oligarch who owns one of the biggest football clubs in London at the time, Chelsea. And I was a massive fan of Chelsea growing up. So I'm like, what? So I'm going to go and work for the owner of my favorite football club? And I go to my trial, they pay for it, I get paid for it as well, I get a job offer, they tell me I can live in one of the little villas for the staff. So I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it. And then this is when I like decided to take my life to the next level even more. So I'm working out, going to the gym, I'm really enjoying my work and creativity, and I'm disciplined, and I'm creating content, I'm working on a blog about traveling and cooking and making videos. Everything just feels so much more aligned, but I still had this void of chasing women, like more. And I'd often like dive back into cigarettes and take a break, cigarettes, take a break, cigarettes. This constant battle of me needing stimulants to calm my nervous system and to feel like peace and ease. That was going on for many years. I did stop caffeine though. Coffee I never drunk more since 2017. And then like, you know, this man, the man I'm working for, he's got villas and yachts all around the world. So I have an opportunity to go work in one of his villas in the Caribbean. I'm like, let's do it. So I'm flying between France and the Caribbean, like cooking this beautiful place, living by the beach, having a beautiful life. I was getting paid decent money. But I had no cost of living. Everything was paid for. Food was paid for, the travel was paid for, my accommodation was paid for. So I was making good money, saving up money. And it was a great experience. I learned a lot and had fun, but it was still just boring. Like the family always ate the same things. It was very repetitive. They're doing specific diets. So I found there was a big lack of creativity for me in the cooking side. And so, you know, I think after a year and a half to 2 years, I resigned. I quit my job again. This time I saved up another 10,000 euros. But okay, I want to go traveling again. I'm done. And this time I wanted to go to Asia, as I'd finished I'd done all South America, and America and parts of the Caribbean and a bit of Central America. I'm like, okay, I want to go to Asia this time and make more videos by myself. But then, one day I'm at home and I'm watching this, I'm on YouTube, and one of my coaches, mentors back then, he posted a video on YouTube talking about ayahuasca and DMT, this plant medicine from the Amazon jungle. So I watched the video, I'm like, that sounds like something I need in my life right now. I want to go on this healing journey. So I changed my ideas to go to Asia. I'm like, okay, let's go back to Colombia. The first time I'd been to Colombia, I didn't necessarily enjoy it that much because I had a bit of altitude sickness. I was super tired. I wasn't in Medellin where I am now. I was in Bogota. I went to the coast as well. And also all I cared about back then was girls. All I cared about was girls. And, having cool pictures and living the cool life. And so I then head off onto this adventure of soul search and healing by myself. And I start off by going to Cuba, then off to Colombia in Medellin, and I go to this ayahuasca retreat. And I'd never taken any psychedelic before. I'd smoked cigarettes and smoked weed, drunk alcohol. I'd taken ecstasy once or twice, tried a bit of cocaine and tried a bit of methadone and MDMA. That was it. But anything like plant medicine, like hallucinogenic, I'd never done anything. So I went this 5-day ayahuasca retreat, and it was, the first ceremony was by far the most challenging, scariest experience of my entire life. It was crazy. Literally, it would take me another hour to explain the whole ceremony. I can do another. If you want to know more about my ayahuasca ceremony, leave me a comment below. But it was wild. The medicine was basically showing me how I've been kidding myself, how I'm kidding myself, what I'm doing, how I'm wasting my sexual energy, how I'm playing small, how I'm, running away from trauma and shame, and my relationships with my family, how people are suffering, and all these things that it was just like, wow. So that was the first, spiritual awakening I had. Anyways, I had an amazing time in Colombia. Then I continued my adventures. I go off to Costa Rica, to Guatemala, to Mexico, to the US because I was going to go to Asia. I stopped in Vegas for a bit. And then I come to Asia. So Japan, Bali, Singapore, Philippines, Vietnam, Cambodia. And this is all during when COVID was kicking off back then. So it's during the pandemic. And I'm just living my best life. I'm just I never watch the news anyway. I'm just living my thing and not really paying attention to what other people are telling me what to do and what I can and can't do. I was abiding by the local regulations, but that was it. Then I get to Thailand, and things are starting to get very serious. And so I get hey, let's go lockdown in Thailand. I don't want to stay in Cambodia for the lockdown. So I get to Thailand, and I think within 4 to 8 hours after, all the borders were closed. No one else was allowed in. So I was there for 2 months. I had one of the best lockdowns of anyone could have. I was on this beautiful island of Koh Tao. I was diving, I was snorkeling. No one could come into the town. And there was we had a curfew for a week, I think. But I could live my life freely, and no one on the island had COVID. It was great. It was a blessing for me. And that's also when I started to have another spiritual awakening. I'd just gone through this plant medicine experience, and I'm trying mushrooms for the first time as well. I'm just trying everything now. I had this psilocybin experience in Thailand on the beach. And that's when I started to question reality and society and the world, and during this whole pandemic craziness. And I'd never been someone that trusts or believes news or TV anyway, so I did go down this massive rabbit hole for a long time, and all these conspiracies. I did overdo it. I would admit that. I went crazy about it. But I learned so much, and I really challenged my beliefs of the world. And so after 2 or 3 months there, the world's opening back up again. Okay, I was running out of money, and I was traveling for 7 months. And okay, let's go back to Europe and let's go work as a chef again. But this time, I wanted to work on super yachts. So I made sure that I had done the minimum training I needed to work on the super yacht before leaving. Because I did that mistake before. I came back broke, I had no money left. So I made sure I did the training this time. Came back to France with my family, and then finished the final little things I needed to do. And then I went and started my career adventure as a private chef on super yachts. So I get a job on a big super yacht, 60 meters, one of a well-known yacht as a sous chef. And at the beginning, I just felt very disconnected from people on the boat. I just had these this mind-blowing experiences, and I'm back to society, closed, locked down this boat. I was making good money and traveling, but there was something about it, that boat, I just did not, enjoy. So I quit that job and got another job on a yacht in the Caribbean, and then I went back, got another job on a boat in Florida and then the Bahamas. I was traveling a lot, changing boats. It wasn't very stable, but I was making money, traveling, having fun, really finding what I wanted in this industry, trying different things. And one of the last boats which got sold, they're going to send me back home to France. I'm like, don't send me back to France. I want to stay at this side of the world because it's in the winter. So during the winter, there's more work in the Caribbean than in Europe. So I was like, send me to Colombia. So I go to Colombia and I do another ayahuasca ceremony, a retreat, another 5-day retreat, like a year later. This also blew my mind. I have more healing, and it's just, having like another spiritual awakening of what's going on in the world. And I start to really feel this connection, this calling to Colombia. I see my roots in Colombia. It shows me all these mention that shows me it's my duty to grow food here and to protect what our ancestors had been fighting for, to really come back to nature. So that was a beautiful calling for me. It was so powerful, and it just resonated, and it just touched every cell of my body. It felt so powerful. And then from there, and so after that, I then get another job on another boat in in Florida, and have a good time there. We're traveling between Florida and the Bahamas and the Caribbean, and I'm really enjoying this boat. It's a smaller boat. I really felt comfortable there, and nice people, and I was still fighting with a few addictions of vaping and cigarettes, but it wasn't as bad as before. And then on my holiday, I go back to Colombia. I do more plant medicine. I'm trying more medicines, and I have more spiritual awakenings. And then that's during the protests of COVID. Colombia's having massive protests, and it's like the world is going crazy. I need to find a base here. I need to really settle down my roots. So that's when I had this download of I got to start looking for property here and buy land and build a home here. It was going wild. Anyways, I continue my holiday. I go to Mexico for a bit and go to Guatemala. Then I go back to work on the yacht, the same boat that I was on before. Had a month holiday. And I come back, I start to realize I don't really want to be here anymore. I had such a strong calling to Colombia. I had, started to build these beautiful connections with friends here, my soul family. And then the next 4 months of work were crazy. The boat was based in New York, in Manhattan and Greenwich, and I was the boss and the family were living on the yacht, so I was working crazy hours. I think I had 3 days off in 4 months. It was crazy, really crazy. I was just one chef. It was just me cooking for all the crew and all the boss and the family, day in, day out. It was very hard to get a day off. And from there what? Yes, then I go on holiday again. I finished the 4 months of that, which was super, 4 or 5 months of just pure grind and hustle. And then I go back to Colombia again. And I'm there for a month. And then I was supposed to go back to work to this boat. And then one day before flying back, the boat emails me and say, no, don't come back. You're fired. So that's another story. Let's just say the yachting industry is very brutal. People don't care. When you have money, they can do what they want. So that's okay. I was happy to be in Colombia, so I continued to stay in Colombia, and I just really went on this quest to find my kingdom and just look for land and my home. So I'm having all these crazy experiences here in Colombia. All these wild things are happening in the world, these crazy events. I'm like, I need to settle down. So this is when I start to look for my home and land in Colombia. I started venturing out, exploring, and meeting people and visiting properties. I'm like, I need to buy something quick. And also back then in Colombia, you could buy, with an investment in Colombia, foreign investment, you could get your residency immediately. And that was about to expire. So I was in a hurry. I was rushing hard to get it and finding property and exploring all the region of Antioquia around the city of Medellin. And anyway, time is running out and I need to go back to work. So I need to work to be able to, I wanted to continue to work while I could before the more crazy restrictions. And so I could, make as much money as I can to buy land and property here in Colombia. So I get a job in the Caribbean on another boat. It's a temporary job. I was there for a couple of weeks, but I hated it. I really did not enjoy it. So I had another job lined up in Europe for after that. But in the meantime, I decided to come back to Colombia. But this time I get refused entry into Colombia. So this was like a heart-shattering moment for me. Like all these dreams and visions I had, like the world's going crazy and I can't even come to the country where I want to live. So back then I go out to Mexico because that's one of the countries I could go to back then. And then I go back to France, back home, spend time with my family. I wait for, the world to calm down a bit. And then I come back to Colombia a few weeks later, about a month later, I think. And then I'm here. I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm going. I was here for like 4 months straight, just exploring. Every day I'd go out on the bus, explore different villages and towns and meet up with realtors. And I visited a total of 75 properties in about 2 years. In over 20 to 25 different villages around the city. And, I had this property which I was really interested in. My time was running out. I had to leave Colombia again because I had no visa. And I'm really trying to close this deal with this property, which I found. It's got like 30 acres of land, got a house in a good area. But the sale fails. There's too many problems with the property. My lawyer strongly advised me not to buy it. It would have taken 2 years to complete the process, so I just scrapped that. And then I had to leave Colombia. Within 1 day, I leave back to Europe to go back to work. I had to leave Colombia anyway. So now I just had these beautiful experiences in Colombia. I have my soul family. I had this mission, this idea, this vision, and it feels so aligned and connected to my heart. I've done all this healing, and so I go back to work on this beautiful big yacht in Europe. And it was a great boat, good work, but I just felt so disconnected from people. Like, just weren't my people. Lots of people in the yachting industry, they just like to go. They work really hard, and then it's just weekend parties and getting drunk, and I just did not want to do that anymore. Not that I did it a lot before anyway, but it was no longer aligned in my life, so I found it very hard to connect with people on the boat. So I did the summer season, did my work, and then I quit and left. And so then I come back to Colombia. I continue to look for my home. I'm exploring again, and my living conditions weren't great. I wasn't being very respectful with my time. I was in a toxic relationship. I wasn't setting many boundaries. I was being too nice with other people, and I got taken advantage of multiple times. But I'm just focused on the one thing, on this land. Also at that time, that's when my mum decides to come and visit Colombia, because I told her about this amazing country which I've fallen in love with. I want to live here, I want to move here. And I also told her, I want her to come and live here. I want her to come and have a beautiful life here and explore and visit, see if she likes it. She then comes to Colombia for 1 month, so I'm spending all my time with her, exploring and being a tourist with her, visiting different properties, and we go to the coast. So it was a very intense month for me, very, very draining, very tiring. And we had a great time, and she really loved the country. So anyway, at the same time, I'm still navigating through this toxic relationship and trying to figure out boundaries between myself, and it's just not really working. So anyway, my mum goes back to Europe after a month here. She had a great time, and that's when I'm like, I'm just so done with this, because I'd done all this all this work on myself and all this healing, but in the relationships, I was still like attracting, toxic people. And I was like, why is this? What is going on here? Why is this happening? And that's when one day I decided, I'd already worked with a few little coaches and mentors, but this time I'm like, okay, like this one person, he just appears into my social media, into my life. I start watching all of his content, and he lives here in Colombia as well. And I book a call with him, and I decided to start working with him on this like 9-10 week coaching program. I tell him about all what I'm going through with my relationships and my life and what I want, and we set out a roadmap together, and then we go on this transformational experience together. During that time, I go back to Europe to work on another boat, because again, I still haven't got land here, I still don't have a visa, so I'm limited to my time in Colombia. And then I get a job on a boat based in Montenegro in Europe in the winter, so it wasn't ideal. But there was one thing about it which I liked. Well, it was a rotational position, so I'd be working 2 months, then 2 months holiday, 2 months work, 2 months holiday, but paid while I'm on holiday. So I go there, and I'm still doing at the same time. I'm working at this boat. I didn't really like it. I didn't like the people. It was a small boat, and I just did not want to be there. I just wanted to be in Colombia, but I knew I needed to work and make a bit more money, and that was part of the process and the journey to get here. So I end that relationship, and at the same time, I start dating another woman who wasn't much better either. It wasn't necessarily suitable for me, so I'm getting all these, emotionally attached and invested. At the same time, like I'm hating my job and I'm vaping again. It's just not where I want to be. It's not what I wanted to do. Whenever I'm in Colombia, I'm not smoking or vaping or drinking, but whenever I'm working in that environment, it's just I'm being self-destructive and self-sabotaging. And yes, then that boat ends. I get fired, but I was going to quit anyway, so I leave that boat. And then one thing I did notice though, when I was there, I was continuing to look for property, and I found this property online. It was like, this could be the one. So I make an appointment to book it when I get back to Colombia. I fly back to Colombia. As soon as I get here, I go visit the property, and I'm like, this is it. This is my kingdom. This is the land I've been looking for 2 years, and had to explore like half of the country to find it. So then it goes, it's a slow process here in Colombia to buy it with my lawyer, and negotiations and papers and documents, and it took about 4 months to finally complete the purchase. In the meantime, while I'm purchasing it, I then attracted a healthy, beautiful relationship into my life with a beautiful, supportive woman, which is great. And I have an amazing birthday party for my 30th birthday here. I celebrated with all my dear friends and had an amazing time. So everything is just going great, and it's aligned with the property I'm about to buy. So everything is just perfectly aligned. Everything's working. I'm having a great relationship, and I finally found my property. The negotiation goes through, and I'm finally a landowner after all this time. I'm just super grateful to everyone that played a part in that, and to my lawyer, and to everyone really. It was a painful and challenging process, but I wouldn't change anything for it, and I'm so grateful for this land I have now, which I call my kingdom. So after that, I finished my visa, process. My lawyer gets my visa sorted out for me, and I needed to leave. I didn't need to leave Colombia, but I wanted to go work one more time to get a bit more money in. I just spent all my money on this house, on this land, and I wanted to build. So then I get an offer to work on one of the most famous charter yachts in the industry back in Europe. So I'm like, great, let's go. So I spend the summer season there. Again, great boat, lots of work, hard work, but made lots of good money. And I felt a bit more aligned than the previous boat I was on, or the two previous ones, but still, it's just, my soul did not want to be there. Like, I was working hard and putting lots of effort into the work that I was doing, but it's just not what I wanted to do deep down in my soul. So I finished the season, and I decided to quit. And I tell the captain, I've nothing bad to say about the boat or the experience, it's just not where I want to be anymore. And then I head off to USA. I go to Burning Man for the first time with some of my friends. Had a wild experience there. Then come back to Colombia and go visit my land and start showing it to my friends. And then it was like, okay, I bought this now. Now my mission is to get my family here. So I then go back to Europe. I spend some time with my dad. I go visit my dad. We spend some super beautiful quality healing time together. We go on a road trip together, and I really get into his world and understand him more, what he went through during my life. And then I come back to Colombia, this time with my mum for the second time. We fly back here. I show her my land, and we do some more plant medicine together, healing our relationship even more, and then we go on adventures around South America. Where my sisters joined us. We went to Brazil. That's where I wanted to really push myself. The previous summer, I'd run an untrained marathon, and I was like, okay, I want to do more than that. So then I went and competed and finished an untrained Ironman triathlon, which I have here, the t-shirt. And it was a super intense experience, but so many benefits from doing it. And so many downloads, and it was, I wouldn't change anything for it. And I want to do one again, another one. And then we go traveling around Brazil or Peru with my mum and my two sisters. It was a bit challenging, spending so much time together, but we had a lot of fun. And then we come back to Colombia. I then show my two sisters Colombia, the country that I love and where I want to live, and introduce them to lots of my friends here. We go to my land together. We do some more medicine together. It was just beautiful. Even though I was starting to work in launching my own business, and I made this dedication that I wanted to work with men as well. Well, not necessarily just from what I'd learned from my mentor, but just seeing the transformation it had in my life and realizing that there's so many more men out there that need help and are stuck. And I felt this massive calling towards it. So that's what I've been doing ever since. Launching a new business, creating content, really just listening to my heart, doing what feels right, and stepping into courage. So when I came back here to Colombia, I went to my land and I burned all of my certificates as a chef and working on yachts. So I cannot go back to work as a chef or a chef on yachts. I really put myself in a situation where there's no plan B. I'm going to make it happen and figure it out. So that's what I did. I put my money into Colombia here, where I'm now building my house, and I'm also building a healing retreat center for men to come and do work here. And I'm working with men now online, because originally I had this vision of building this retreat center for men to come and collaborate with other mentors of mine and people and medicine and do this retreat center. But then I realized, I'm playing small. There's men out there who won't be able to come to Colombia, who won't be able to come to attend retreats. So it's I want to make it. I want to impact as many lives as I can, and through that I need to do it online as well. So I'm also coaching men online and in person here in Colombia. So then I got into breath work. I'm leading breath work now, and I'm doing more somatic drop-ins, and I'm just going all in I'm just going all in on myself and this transformation that I want to provide for others to have as well. So yeah, since I've been back in here, Colombia, I now have another beautiful girlfriend, a healthy relationship, which is going amazing. My mum has been here. She's going to come back soon. I'm about to start building my first house here in the first retreat center. I'm changing people's lives. I'm leading breathwork sessions in person. I'm getting invited to different events. Everything just feels so aligned, and it's exactly what I want to do, exactly where I need to be in my life, exactly my purpose and my calling here on this planet to serve and to impact people. I've been working with other mentors as well. I just keep investing in myself with different coaches, different mentors, learning different parts about the coaching industry, different tools and techniques, and really just becoming the best version of myself I can to then provide the best service I can for men. Not just men who have had a similar journey to me, but all types of men. I want to impact and help as many men as I can on their journey, because I feel like I've been through a lot, and lots of men can relate with my journey, different parts of different struggles. So I really want to give back to humanity, and I've been inspired by some of my mentors, Alan, Tony, Luke, more of them, but I really want to I've been inspired, and it feels right. Listening to my heart and doing the right thing with my retreat center. I really want, I'm creating a space that I wish I had growing up in my 20s, that I could come to and do inner work and be surrounded by people who are going to support me and see me for who I am without judging me, and provide a safe space for me and give me guidance and mentorship during these challenging times that everyone goes through in their life. And I truly believe that everyone in their life, should have a coach or a mentor at some point to get you through what you're going through. Because if I didn't invest in myself and for mentors, I would not be here today telling this story to you. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video of me sharing a bit about my story. I know it's long, but I wanted to keep it as authentic as possible without cutting out anything, so you can really, see who I am. I know you've been following me maybe on social media for a while. You've heard lots of different parts about my story, but this will really hopefully put it into perspective a bit more so you can truly see who I am. And if you like this video, feel free to give it a like, leave a comment below, subscribe, or you can go follow me on Instagram at blake.coach. All the links will be below in the description, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.